Hello friends, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are building a new park in Willow Creek for my forever save file. That also includes a graveyard since I feel like that's something I want to have down the road. Though thankfully it's just filled with fake headstones for now. You can see I'm very loosely planning out where I want everything to go, and it actually stays very true to this plan, though the building will go through a big change at the very end of the video, so don't worry. I know it looks really ugly for a long time, but I just needed to let it sit before I figured out how to make it better. I also, for the first time, decided to use a little bit of terrain tools. I know, crazy, right? I sunk the playground a few inches into the ground. That's it. But I think that's pretty realistic. I don't know where I got the idea from, but I feel like it just adds a little bit of interest. However, I would at some point actually really love to learn how to use the terrain tools for real. But also, I don't know, I feel like this might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like most lots aren't big enough to make terrain tools look good. I feel like you need a lot more space to make anything that seems kind of natural. Because if the terrain tools are too close to the edge of the lot, it just looks weird. Maybe that's just me though. Like, the rest of the world is flat pretty much anyway. So having like a giant mountain on a tiny lot just seems out of place. I really like how the build turns out though at the end. However, I did prioritize having lots of playable space since this is a build I will actually be using, and I do have a tendency to go a little bit overboard with landscaping. I have plant blindness, okay? So I really tried to refrain myself. Because of that, in my eyes, at least, it does look a tiny bit emptier than I would usually go for. But I think it's probably better for gameplay anyway. And also, it feels a lot more realistic for a park as well, to have more green space than flower beds, so I guess it kind of works out. Speaking of greenery though, I did discover something really cool when I was working on the cemetery, and it's that you can actually really easily place the wall ivy on fences to get a really cool, pretty secret garden type effect. And I think it adds such a overgrown yet whimsical look to the cemetery, which I'm really pleased with. I really don't have much to say about the build other than that, so I'm going to move on. Apart from the build, I usually like to use these speed builds to talk about channel updates and things that have been going on with me. I think it was last month where I decided to cut back on videos from 3 videos a week to 2, and I've been really enjoying that. I feel like I have so much more free time and energy to do things other than just recording and editing videos, even though I love doing that as well. I've picked up a few hobbies that I haven't done in a really long time, including most recently writing, but also I've been crocheting and knitting, which I've always really loved, but don't always have the time or the motivation or the materials to do it. But I've been on the lookout recently for yarn at thrift stores and also garage sales, and so now I have a pretty decent stash that I'm planning on using. I crocheted a little leggy frog who's super adorable, and then I'm in the process of knitting him a little sweater. The first sweater I've ever knit before, and the first time I'm doing it color work, which was really intimidating, but I think I've gotten the hang of it. I found a pattern chart for little mushrooms, which I thought was perfect for a frog sweater, and I was right. It is very cute. And I've also cast on a sweater for myself, but I'm so nervous to start that that it's been sitting on my needles for a few days. I've also been rewatching The 100 for I think the 4th time now with my mom for our evening supper TV, and it's always been one of my favorite TV shows, but I forgot just how good it was. I've watched the earlier seasons quite a bit because I would rewatch them every time a new season would come out, but I believe I've only watched the last season once, and I remember feeling a little underwhelmed by the finale and felt like it was a little bit convoluted from what I remember. But you know what? Don't let a bad finale stop you from enjoying a series, and feel free to just make up an ending that you like better. That's what I do, and I'm not afraid to admit that. However, I am really curious to watch it again and see if my feelings change at all, because I feel like this time around I've noticed a lot more details and made connections that I hadn't realized before, which is really fun. We're on to season 5 now, and just watching the whole series over again is really starting to get me inspired to try and build the post-apocalyptic save file that I talked about making so long ago. I don't even know like how long ago that was, and I still don't know how I would do that or if I have the building skill for that. But every time I see a Journey to Batu item or a Strangerville item in the build mode catalog, I get a little boost of like, oh, this would be so cool for this or that. And maybe I'll have to attempt it sometime. If I don't finish a build, would you guys still like to see an attempt of building something post-apocalyptic? That might actually be really cool, actually. Having videos showing failed or unfinished attempts, and then we can really see how the ideas developed if I actually succeed. I'll have to think about that. Also, just watching back the speed build, I am so sorry. I jump around so much in my builds. I had no idea that I did that until I started recording speed builds, and it's a little bit chaotic seeing it sped up like that. So I will tell you that I do come back to the graveyard and add headstones and everything. I don't just leave it empty like this. Although I did initially think I was going to, but I decided that it might not look great to have one single headstone in the graveyard when my first sim dies. That might be kind of weird. But very soon in the speed build, we will be going and creating a pergola out by the gazebo. Initially, when I built this, I thought it was going to be a kind of trellis pergola sunshade for a community garden, but then it kind of morphed into a really pretty wedding aisle, and then I decorated the pergola and area around it as like a wedding banquet hall kind of area, which I think will be really pretty, especially for Kat and Johnny, who will be getting married soon. So I talked in my last video about having them get married at the park, and then here it is. This is the park they're going to get married at. Though before I changed my mind and turned this area into a wedding spot, I was going to put chess tables in the gazebo, and I'm just now realizing that I didn't add any chess tables to the park, so I'm going to have to go in and add those after. There is always something that I forget in a build. I don't know why or how that's even possible, but literally every single build, there's something that I need to go in and add. Oh, I also just wanted to mention how much I really loved the look of the stone terrain paint lined with the gravel. I just think that looks so cool and detailed and realistic. Even though the terrain paint kind of tends to look very flat and like it is just painted onto the ground, I've been trying to mix different terrain paints together to create a more interesting and detailed look, and I really like this combination. But anyway, I really spent a significant amount of time decorating the gazebo, and I think it looks so pretty. I can't wait for Kat and Johnny to get married here. It's going to be so cute. I put like a bunch of streamers and curtains everywhere, and it all looks really nice, I think, for a nice, simple little family gathering wedding. But of course, because Kat doesn't have family, and I don't know if I want to invite Nancy to my wedding. Is that bad if I don't? No. You know what? It's drama. I'm gonna invite Nancy. We'll see what kind of chaos she brings. Oh, also, I think the playground actually turned out really well. I used a combination of children's toys and also toddler stuff. So finally, that giant toddler pack playground jungle gym thing has a purpose, and it actually looks really cool, even if only just toddlers can use it. I think it turned out really well. I also added some darker terrain paint around all the areas that the sand would probably get pushed to the side, like underneath the swings and the slides and stuff. And I think that makes it look very realistic. How many times can I say realistic in one video? And just help make the equipment look like they fit. Oh yeah, and I totally forgot to mention, but while we were over at the graveyard or cemetery and the building, I sized up some of the hydrangeas and hostas, and I don't hate it. There was so much space back there that having them regular sized would have looked so weird, but I think sizing them up looks really good. And you know, hydrangeas and hostas can get massive, so it's also not completely unreasonable, I don't think, to have like enormous flowers and plants back there. But I'm really glad that I decided to try that out. You'll also see that I kind of went about putting the headstones in the cemetery in kind of a weird way. So my thought process was to get it looking the most random that I could, that I would put them all as one headstone just to put them in the right spot, and then delete them, add a different kind, delete them randomly, add a different kind. And then I feel like even if I deleted like old ones, the ones that I just placed down, that it would have a more random pattern to it. So whenever I'm trying to create something that's random, that's normally how I do it. And I think it turns out pretty good looking, pretty organic. And then I also went in and used these little red flowers around all the tombstones, and I think it looks so pretty and kind of whimsical. Also, the red could kind of be like poppies or something, but it just turned out really good. I'm really happy with it. Normally, when I've built graveyards in the past, they tend to be like way overgrown and kind of in shambles, or way too manicured and orderly. So I think this graveyard strikes a really good balance of both, in my opinion. And now we are finally getting to work on the building slash like kind of community center, although it's not the lot type community center. I did add like some bookshelves, desks with some computers, couch, fireplace, that kind of thing. So it's like a communal space. And I am so glad that I did change the building. It looked so bad at the beginning. Wow. But I think it looks pretty good at the end now, especially with the ivy, of course. I initially was just going to put some filler plants at the back of the building because it is like right up to the edge of the lot. But then I decided, you know, I might as well just fill it up with the landscaping that I've been using all over the place, and once again, I'm glad I did. I think it looks a lot better. And as you watch me furnishing the building, do you see what's missing from it? Yep, it's a bathroom. Of course, because this is my build. I always forget the bathrooms in all of my community lots for some reason. So I had to add an extension to the building, and also for some reason I decided to make the bathroom really gross. I don't know why. I had a lot of fun with it though, and who doesn't love a gross public bathroom? But with that, I'm going to end the voiceover here. Thank you so much for watching the build. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, and if you are new, consider subscribing so you don't miss my next video. I hope that you all have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye!